trying to impress me, pulling out all the stops, making my head dizzy when you tell me what you want. I just wanted you to see me, never thought you'd notice. Thought that you should know I'm already sold, so never let me go. You had me at a la 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 la. I can see you trying, finding ways inside my head. Lost and out of focus, I can hear a word you say. Cause I don't care about your game, I just wanted you to see me. Thought that you should know I'm already sold, so never let me go. You had me at a la 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 Stop talking, I don't care. With you, my mind is clear.
All right, welcome to the Poly for Male podcast / video. This is my beautiful wife, Jolene.
Hello.
And I'm Kip. So, why am I doing this video? Poly for Men. So, I've read Polysecure, Sex at Dawn, was it More Than Two, The Ethical Slut, all great books. I think you read most of those as well, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so great books, and they really help you to understand, how to manage a relationship. I think that's very important from a poly perspective. You're going to be successful. But one of the things I found missing is that how to date as a poly male comes with some unique challenges. And I went around YouTube and tried to look at what videos are out there, if there's any advice specifically dating poly for men, and I didn't find anything, at least anything that was actually helpful, that provided any great or any type of guidance, which wasn't there. What do you think about that, Jolene? You think there's...
I haven't done a lot of research from the male's perspective. I've done a lot of research trying to understand poly, and from both male and female perspective. I think there's a lot of things that can be applied across both genders, but there is a difference between how women and how men date.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's probably lacking, is more from a male's perspective to date poly to be successful.
Yes, and that's why I'm doing this video. So before I get into poly for men, kind of the overview today, I kind of want to talk about what I'm not going to be talking about. I'm not going to be talking about polygamy or anything that goes against the spirit of freedom or autonomy. All right, because a lot of people get that mixed up, and there's a big difference between polygamy and poly. And it's such a basic thing, I'm not even going to go into it in this video. But I will start off. Jolene, what does polyamory mean to you?
Multiple loves. So having multiple relationships that have a level of physical intimacy and emotional intimacy, in parallel. So having, having a husband or a wife and a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Right. I think it's very similar for me. Polyamory for me is obviously having more, multiple women, female partners. And yes, the sex is obviously an important part of that, But the main thing is actually the emotional connection there. And, and I'll go deeper into this in future videos, but I think once you get to a stage, at least as a man, where you've had a lot of sexual partners and you've kind of gone through the slut phase, for lack of a better term, you start to really realize that, I want something a little deeper, And so that's kind of my simple journey that, at least for today, I'll go into about how I came to poly. And so it's more about the actual relationship, the importance of spending an awesome weekend with one of your partners, going to a music festival, maybe going snowboarding. And obviously sex is there, but that's not what keeps the relationship going. So that's what polyamory is. All right, so women have their own unique challenges in poly dating. And so before this, I know that there's a lot of men out there that'll talk about, it's just easy for women to date, they have all those opportunities. And to some extent that's true. But let my wife tell you from a female perspective the challenges that she has.
So there's a lot of options for women as far as dating. I mean, monogamous or non-monogamous. Typically, women are bombarded with messages and likes on the various different dating apps, social media channels for dating. And for women, it's all about, for me, having a good filtering process, knowing what you want. I know what I want, I know what I'm looking for, and I really try to find partners that match what I'm looking for. And that's of course on the surface, you read someone's profile and you're like, vibing with a lot of the things that they have in their profile. They're attractive, they seem very interesting. Those are the ones that get my attention. And then you have to go to the step of, reaching out, and is there, what's the conversation like? Is there a connection just through, texting, or instant message now? That's how a lot of these things start. And then moving on to conversation, and then, obviously meeting in person. So there's lots of different layers and levels, but women definitely have an easier time. And I would say, having a good filtering system, and standards of, what kind of partner you're looking for. I have multiple partners, and I want to make sure if I'm, dating somebody that, it fits within my polycule and my partners. That's important to me. So for women, it is a little easier, but there's just a lot of volume. You have to, really work your way through, but having a good idea of who you are and what you want to guide you through that filtering process is very important.
So let's get to numbers too. A lot of men like numbers, I think you explained it well. It's the filtering process. At least from my perspective, that's what I see as well, the biggest challenge for women. But when you were on Tinder or Bumble, which you're not anymore, but when you were, how many messages a day did you get?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
A lot.
It was overwhelming. There's no way I could keep up. I mean, I have a full-time job. I have other interests. I have other hobbies. Like, I'm just not glued to my phone. And finding a partner is not my full-time job. So it's very overwhelming, and that can be difficult because I'm sure there's some possible great connections to be had, but just the sheer volume of it can be challenging to manage.
Right. So you can see. I mean, so for the men out there saying women have it easy because they have all this opportunity, but they literally have to go through like hundreds, thousands of messages and guys and trying to see is this guy actually on the page that wants to date me, or is he just a guy who thinks I'm poly or E&M, ethically non-monogamous, that just wants to have sex with me. Because there's a lot of guys that just try to creep into the poly community because they think like the poly girls are easy. So
easy
that creates is that my wife and other women in poly have to filter that out. And I think my wife is very good at that. She's very good at filtering out the these little manipulative guys that to try to filter that in, or try to come in and play that game. So let's go to the other side. So what are the unique challenges for men? It's literally opportunity. When you go on these dating apps, and now Tinder has a E&M poly option, you get on there. The fact is, a lot of women, probably around 70%, is my estimation, probably are just not going to date a guy that's poly, period. Like, you have that in there, like, no. Most women don't want to date a guy that's outwardly poly. Now, there's some that are, but so you have that stacked against you. You also have the stigma of the poly community itself. A lot of people just think that poly people are weird. They're just people that are on the spectrum and use these weird lingos like metamor and polycule and things like that, which are important terms, but I know for a lot of people out there, they seem kind of weird. So...
Well, and they don't know what they mean.
Right. And so you mentioned polycule earlier.
Yeah.
Would you want to define that?
That means, you're a group that you're associated with or you're in a relationship with, and it's almost like a family. It's definitely more than association, I would say. It's more of a family. You're a poly family, also polycule, people that you rely on, throughout your journey.
And the polycule, as weird as the term sounds, is one of the most fulfilling benefits you get from poly. I'm about to go over all some of the challenges that men have with dating poly, but having a polycule with people that live the lifestyle that are your friends is one of the most rewarding things that you can get, especially as we age. A lot of people our age, we're kind of old at this point. They only, that are in a typical monogamous relationship, they only have each other. They don't have a lot of outside friends.
We're in our mid-40s, so we're not super old, but...
Kind of old. I think the young people think we're old, but it's okay.
That's true. But I think the point that Kip is trying to make is the older you get, it's harder to find, friends. A lot of times you have friends that you've grown up with or you went to college with, but as you get older, people get more involved with their lives, kids, there's a lot of things that take you away from relationships, especially as you get older, and it's harder to find those solid relationships as you age.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the, having friendships that you can go travel with and have an awesome time because you're around freedom-minded people. They don't have the same limits and they worry about the outside world way too much. And, that's very obvious to us. When we see, like, I live a very free lifestyle and so do you. And obviously there's ethics involved, but when you're around people that aren't free, it's just honestly not as fun. It's not as fun. I mean, we do have friends that are vanilla, that are not poly, and some of them, we hang around, but they're inherently just not as fun on average, and so, so going back to dating, being a man that's poly, I mean, you can just think about Instagram, like who gets more likes on Instagram, a female or male, and obviously you don't have to go on that long to realize that women will get, if not 10 to 100 times more likes than a guy, right? So that's basically the same kind of numbers you're getting with online dating, right? So obviously nowadays online dating is the main way people date. So you have that going against you. That's going to be challenging, right? And so that's what you're up against, The other thing is that, like, we know, well, personally, is that, well, first of all, I'll say this. A woman can be poly and thrive in poly and not have a job. And there's no judgment there. No judgment at all. I mean, if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't work either, But we know personally a few women who don't work at all. And they're very successful in the poly world. That really cannot be said for men. There's probably some men out there that maybe can pull it off, but on average, if you're unemployed or you don't have a great job, it's not gonna say it's impossible, and not gonna say don't try. it's just going to be a lot harder for you because of the access, the traveling, the doing cool stuff together. It's just a lot harder, and so I mean that's the reality. And so I'm painting this reality not to, so you can just give up and say, well, I can't do it. I'm stating this because at the end, if you reach kind of the point where we are in terms of having a successful marriage and successful relationships with other people, you realize that it's totally worth it, But I want to kind of tell you what challenges you're up against. I think that's only fair. I think that gets left out of almost all the poly literature, is the unique challenges that men face.
Well, I would like to add, obviously, having a source of income and a job is definitely very important. Not only just to do fun things and spend money, as Kip says, but it also, from a partner perspective, it's good to have something that's your own, something that you're passionate about, something that you enjoy doing, something that motivates you, something that drives you. These are all things, personally for me, that I'm looking for in a potential partner. Is, what outside of, a relationship do you have going for yourself? Where do you put your effort? Where do you put your time? That's important. And having a job and owning that job and, making the best of it is something that a potential partner possibly could be looking at. Obviously from the financial perspective, not all partners want to be taken care of. Some do. But it says a lot about who you are, your character, what motivates you, your interests, from that perspective.
Right. And just as we talk about some of the challenges with poly, one of the things, at least that I come across, I imagine other men do as well during the poly, is that you'll get women maybe right off the bat or maybe halfway through your relationship that may ask you for money. That probably doesn't happen as much from the female perspective, but as a man, that does happen. So this is why it's important to understand and realize and read body language, read tonality, and so you can kind of filter out the women that are there to, try to get money, because that is a thing, the sugar daddy lifestyle. That is a reality that's out there. And I think some women see a man that's poly and they think maybe I could do this, and there's no judgment if that's the case, but just something else to be aware of. I think that is a unique issue with men. So part of the reason now I'm going to go into this is some of these tips, this kind of psychological kind of guidance that I'm going to be talking about here, is kind of, you could say, somewhat controversial. And I'm not telling people when I go through this, I want to preface this because I don't want people to misread what I'm saying here, is that I'm not telling people if you don't do this, you're a loser or not. I want you to succeed. I want men to succeed at poly. Honestly, I think if more people were poly and lived free, I honestly believe that the world would be a better place, right? I know that sounds kind of woo-woo and everything, but I think if you look at all the war, the crime, the drug that's related to jealousy and acquiring resources so you can be with more women, if you just look at that period throughout human history and even today, that's the major premise of drama on television shows. It's the major cause of wars, accumulating resources so they can date more women, from an evolutionary standpoint. So I think, honestly, it would be better if, more people dated poly. So I'm stating this to help you thrive. I'm not telling you, my advice here is to take you from 0, to 10, to 20. I'm not here to take you just back to 0. And sometimes we do have traumas. We do have issues that we have to face that maybe put us in the negative, and we try to get better. But my guidance here is to take you from 0 up to 10 to 20 and beyond, right? So what does that mean? So what that really means is that you have to be an above average male to be successful in poly. can you can't just, if you think you're just gonna walk into your local poly meetup and just be like, I'm poly, you're poly, let's date. It's like not to say that's impossible. It may work. You might connect with somebody. I'm just to let you know right off the bat, though, based upon my experiences and what I've seen and kind of what's online and the complaints, that it's going to be a lot harder for you. So what does that mean? What does that mean, being good, better than average? Well, I think number one is that as a male poly, and of course I'm doing this more for straight men, but I think you could apply these principles for anybody, is that you have to be good with women. You have to be good with women. You have to understand women. You have to be empathetic and sympathetic towards women. And in a sense, you have to know how to please them, not in a submissive way, but in a way that they want to be in a relationship with you. If you do not have that ability, or let's say you're even average at that, it's going to be a struggle, because the amount of women that are dating poly, that want to date men in poly, it's not as many as there are men there trying to date poly women. So you have to kind of be your best self, and so that's what the series of videos that I'm doing is catered to. So if for some reason I get into some maybe harsh realities and some tough statements here, that sound maybe like hardcore, like that's not, I'm not telling you, I'm not doing this for you to like hurt your feelings or whatever. I'm saying this is like a tough love, because I want you to succeed, but for you to succeed, you first have to recognize the reality of the situation. It's similar to when you first go to the gym. You can't just go into the gym, you had never been lifting before, and think you're going to bench 315. You have to work on yourself, and you slowly get better. And at some point, maybe after years, especially when it comes to relationship stuff like this, then you're enough where I bench 315. But before that, maybe you just start off with push-ups. So this is where we are with kind of thriving in the poly world, and this is where this is where my video series is going to go. So I hope you stay tuned and tune in and listen to more poly advice and discuss the unique challenges that men face. And feel free to drop a comment and ask a question. And best of luck, and I hope you thrive. For all the poly people out there, I want we all to thrive, both men and women. So thank you.
Thank you.
La 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 la. Hi me at hello.